left off yesterday. Yeah, we left off on today's Gimel. We left it yesterday. Where's what's his name? Aaron. Green. Probably talking on the phone. Okay, we're going to move. The Mishnah has enumerated many things that a Nazir has to be megaleach. You have certain situations that even if you're contaminated with the dead, the Nazir does not have to. It doesn't disrupt his counting. It has to be specific things. For instance, let's say you have bones of a corpse. In terms of its volume, it has to be chatzi kav. Certain. What about it's a quarter of a kav? Although he will be contaminated, if he goes into the tent, he'll be contaminated. Factually, he does not have to shave. It does not interrupt his counting. He has the paraduma, but he continues counting. That's not okay. And why? This halacha from Sinai. The name from Sinai, that's the way it is. So the Mishnah says, if you have, what about if he comes in contact with a skull and a spinal column, which is an integral part of the person? He has to be megaleach. Right? It's contaminated, but he has to be megaleach. So the Gemara asks a question when it says gugoles v'shedra. Does it mean either A or B, or it means both of them together? That's the Gemara's question. When it says gugoles is the skull, shedra is the spinal column. So that's the Gemara's question. Let's see. One second. Warfare. Yeah. It's on Nun Beis Amar Aleph. Go real quick over here. What? Yes. But it's only if it has enough flesh on it that if it would be attached, the flesh would regrow, would be regenerated. Understand? If it's just the bone, the limb, without that and the flesh, there's not enough flesh on it, it doesn't contaminate. Okay? I just want to. What? No, I made a mistake. We're on what's his name? What did we leave off here? 1 second.
Is it kind of a large amount or small?
Large. Yes. Contaminate. He's not allowed. He's not permitted. Kohen's not permitted to contaminate. Here we're talking purely legaleach. Does he have to shave his hair, which means interrupt his counting, have to start counting over again? Yes, you touch a bone. First of all, we talked about the kav. That's only if you enter into a tent. If you touch even as much as a bone the size of a barley, he also has to shave his hair. Because that's direct contact. A bone fragment size of a barley is not, if you go over it, you don't become contaminated. Only if you touch it or you move it, or you carry it. Okay, let's start from over here. It's Nun Aleph from the base. Toni Ula Bar Chanina. That's where we left off yesterday. Omed Beis, yeah. Nun Aleph from the base. Today's Nun Beis is not Nun Gimel. Howard, I don't want you to get ahead of yourself. Okay? Toni Ula Bar Chanina. Mes shechos elo rekib. It said that if a body decomposes, naturally decomposes, and you take that decomposed material and it's the size of let's say a handful, okay? And if the Nazir comes in contact with that, what's his name? It interrupts his counting, he has to shave his hair. It's called Moli Tarkif. Moli Tarkif. Moli Tarkif means it's the size of a handful of this decomposed human matter. That's what it is, okay? So what about if Ula says, what if you bury a person and the person was an amputee? And with the body decomposed, it's the body missing the leg. This is not a full body. This is all halachah l'shmi Sinai. This is halachah l'shmi Sinai. Tani Ula bar Chanina mei shechoselo Ein lo rekiv. There's no rekiv. The law of rekiv, rekiv means the decomposed matter, has no relevance to him. It has to be decomposed matter of the full body that decomposed. If the whole body wasn't there when decomposed, the law of rekiv of this decomposed matter has no application to a nazir. Okay? Velo tfusa. Tfusa means that let's say you exhume a body. Let's say you find a corpse, and you take the corpse off the location. There's halachim. Usually there's all kinds of fluids coming out of the body. You have to go 3 inches into the ground, or if there's, let's say, sand or something, you have to scrape it off, and it has to be taken with the body. It has the same status as the body. It has to be, wherever you bury the body, that has to be buried with the body. Also, shchunas kvoros. Let's say you find, so the same thing, he says, the law of a body is what is not fully intact. Let's say he was an amputee. So the law of record doesn't apply. The law that you have to take the 3 inches below doesn't apply, because there's all halachim Sinai. And what about a shchunas kvoros? What about you come to a location and you find 3 bodies, and they're buried with a distance of 4 amos one to the other, or 8. 8, you could presume that whole area is a cemetery. So not only are you not permitted, the Kohen is not permitted to go there, even the whole area he's not permitted to go, because you have to suspect, as you found the 3 here, outside those 3, there may be others buried. Okay? So he's saying, what about if one of the bodies, he found 2, and one of the bodies was an amputee? If the full body wasn't interred. Then we say, so Tosfos has a problem with this. Why? Factually, it's a human being that's buried. So if 3 people were buried, whether he's fully intact, not fully intact, maybe it's an indication of other bodies in the area. So Tosfos says this halacha of 3 that we were concerned, it's halacha mishum Sinai. Again, it's halacha mishum Sinai. It has to be 3 full bodies you have to find. That's when you have to be concerned for the outer area. But if you don't find 3 full bodies, let's say one was buried, he was not fully intact, then you don't have to be concerned. It's only that area. Beyond that area, you don't have to be concerned. That's what Tosfos explains. Okay? Meisvei. So that's what Ula says. That the law of rekev means the decomposed matter, only applies if the full body decomposes. Lo, im amrit b'mes, sheish lo rov, v'rova, omoli tarkiv, rekev. Toma b'chai she'en lo rov, v'lo rova, v'lo mori takr rekev. Now, okay, so over here, Rashi explains, yeah. Now, we speak about Evim min Achai. If you have a limb off a living human being, it contaminates. Right? It'll contaminate the Kohen, it'll contaminate the Nazir. The Nazir it interrupts, and he has to shave his hair and start over again. So over here, what about if you have flesh from a living human being? Not a limb. Limb has bones, has sinews. Just have the flesh. So Tosfos explains, you know what happened? You took a limb off, now you took a kzayis of the flesh off that limb. What is the status of that flesh? A kzayis. Dikal mad dimitayr. One says it has to be attached to the limb. The only time that flesh will be metame is if it's attached to the limb. You remove it, it doesn't contaminate. Dikal mad dimitame. Okay, and he says, and the other one says it does get. What's the machlokas? Because if you have a limb of a corpse, and you take a kzayis off that limb, it contaminates. So just as the limb contaminates, and the limb off the living human being contaminates, and as you take the kzayis off the limb with that from the corpse, it contaminates. So it should be similarly when you take the kzayis flesh off the living limb that was removed from the should also contaminate. That's what the one who says why he equates the 2 of them. You see they're the same, okay? Yolvim b'sar posh min ames u'mosav lo. Mersa makes a differentiation. Lo imam evim min ames shekim mes yesh lo kama chumros rova umoli rekiv. Now he says, you know why by a mess we said if you take the basar off the limb it contaminates? Because you have multiple laws which have no relevance to a living human being. As we said, if you have the bones, you have a certain number of bones, it brings about contamination. That's not the case by a living human being. You find differentiations. The law of rekev. What about if you have the limb decomposes? Doesn't contaminate. That's only by the composed material of a corpse, not a living human being. So therefore, you can't draw one from another. You want to make an analogy that they're not comparable. So let's see it inside now. No, if let's say he dies, so now you have a limb. Now let's say a person loses a limb now, and you bury it, and now he dies. Now he's all together. That's the full corpse in the ground. That's the full corpse in the ground. Even though it was taken off when he was alive, doesn't make a difference. Regarding tumor, correct? They do keep it together for that reason. Okay, let's see over here. So he says, so he said to him, "Lo imamrit b'meh sheish bo rov v'rova." Yeah, but you have the majority of the bones contaminated, or you have a rova, you have a quarter of the bones, rova kav, or moli tarkiv rekiv. Tom b'chai she'ein lo rov v'rova v'lo mori tarkiv rekiv. You hear what it says here? It says we're talking about a limb of a corpse versus a limb of a human being. He says the differentiations. What does it say? By the corpse you have rov, rova, and moli tarkiv. And by a living human being, you don't have that. Now, it says you have by the corpse moli tarkiv rekiv. That means the spoonful of decomposed matter. And what are we talking about? We're talking about a limb. Similarly, we talk hechidomi. Hechidomi. The ikiv chadever. The kavosagabi mes. What are we talking about? You have a limb of a human being. The person's alive. So how much of the limb decomposed? The limb. So we're talking about a limb of a human being decomposing, or the limb of a corpse decomposing. So you see, just having the limb itself, although you don't have the full body, the halach is that decomposed matter will contaminate. Right? So this is a refutation on what? Hokamash malon, shum es yeshlo rekiv, shum chayin lo rekiv. I mean, any corpse, whether he's intact, not intact, the law of rekiv has relevance, and the human being not. So this is a refutation on what? On Ula. So you see, Ula is not correct, what he said. Okay? So he answers, Miktoni homes. You hear this? Doesn't say every mess. Hokamash shumes yeshlo rekiv. Shum chayim. I mean, you know which mess? Which no human being will you find the law of rekiv. Why? Because the only case of a human being is only a limb. But by a corpse, you will find the law of rekiv. Where? When you have the whole human being intact. So therefore, it's not a refutation on Ula. Boy Rava, listen to this. Here, give your question. This is Judah's question. A person was an amputee. They buried his limb. So he was alive when the limb was buried. Now it decomposes in the ground. Then after he dies, and they put it all together. So the limb, part of the decomposition, when did it decompose? When he was alive. So do we combine that decomposed material with the body? Because that was not the decomposed material of a dead person. That was the decomposed material of a living person. Now, that person is no longer alive. So now do we look at it as like the decomposed material of a corpse? Or do we say, no, it's not? Yeah? Boy, Rava, here kim kushuchai. V'chazu mes ma'u kigamiri rekev. When the halachim shini of rekev, that the decomposed material contaminates, the irkiv kshumes, that's only when it decomposes when he's dead. When he's dead. Oh, dilma hashta miya homayis. But actually, since the person is no longer alive, it's a decomposed material of a dead person. Is it when it decomposes, he has to be dead? Or it has to be decomposed material of a dead person? So since today he's dead, even though it decomposed when he was alive, it doesn't make a difference. Interesting shaila. We were trying to understand what's the halacha mishmi Sinai. Toshma. Lo, quoting the same brisa. Im amrit b'mez sheyesh lo. We said by a corpse yesh lo rov v'rova moli tarkav rekiv. Tomachai. It says, but by living you don't have it. Taimim mishum chai. It seems to be only because he's alive. That's the reason why there's no rekiv, because he's alive. Hames. It seems to be from the brisa, but if he would subsequently die, you would combine that decomposed matter with, right? Yesh lo rekiv. He says, Miktoni mes, Kamash Milon, The shum mesa in lo rekif shum chayim lo. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean to say if he dies now, what decomposed before is combined with what hit. It means by a corpse you find the law of decomposed matter. A human being you don't find such a thing. It doesn't say every case where the person dies we apply the law of decomposed matter. That's not the case. Like we said earlier. Let's say a person will be buried as an amputee. Right? He's dead. Yet we say Rekev doesn't apply there because he's not fully intact. Same thing here. Even though today he died and everything's decomposed, but since the leg decomposed when he was alive, therefore we don't combine that with the decomposed matter of the corpse itself. Now the halacha is like this. The Gemara says in Makos, a person normally to eat something not kosher, how much do you have to eat to be subject to malchus, a gazayis? What about if you eat an ant? An ant. It's a namola. Right, but halacha is you get an insect, you get malchus. Because that's called bria. Because since it's fully intact as it is, that's considered eating, and sometimes you're subject to multiple malchus. Because the multiple lavim referring to that. The Gemara says, if you grind them up, right, then you have to eat a kazayas. Because the natural form is no longer in place. But if it's in its natural form, if you eat the insect, you're subject to malchus, okay? So now, boy, Rava, nemola shechosra. You have an ant. Let's say its legs were torn off. Its leg was torn off. So these machlokes Rashi knows how to learn over here. It doesn't mean to say what was removed, it could still live, or what was removed, it still retains its form as it has nothing to do with being alive. It still looks like the insect, right? Let's say you tear off its head, the ant. You tear off its head, doesn't look like an ant anymore. But if you tear off its leg, it still looks like an ant. So that's the there's a machlokes Rashi knows how to learn. Take a look in the Molo. Ma'o. Don't perk in later. Loken ha'ochen the Molo chayv le b'chol shu. Alpi she'en bo kazayis m'boile nikzu ragleho. You hear this? Shadayin he yachol lichios. No, because since it could still live, although its leg was removed, therefore it's called a bria. Because since the leg is insignificant to its existence, therefore that's still considered, it retains its profile as an ant. That's the shaila. Does it have to be fully there or not? Rashi learns differently. We look. Kosher v'ochlo ma'u shir the chiochel chayev v'ilu ha'echo the chosro havipa udilma brio gemiri lo chiochel brio mechayev v'chichoshe na mechayev do iko brio damri ruba kakulo has nothing to do with look. Since the majority of the insect is in place, we say the majority is equivalent of the whole. Like when we slaughter an animal, you have to cut through both signs. Majority is the whole. So here, as long as you have the majority, that's called you have the full insect. That's the shaila. Shira gemirile b'choser. Maybe the shira is it has to be full. Oh, bria gemirile. No, it's halacha you ate a bria. Since you ate a beria, a bria, it's a bria. Therefore, you can be subject to mouth. That's the shaila. Is a shiurim means you have to have it's in its full, or it has to be a bria. So as long as it's still identified as a bria, that's sufficient. So more asks. Voiko. Omer Rav Yehuda midiskarto. Today's daf. Omer Rav Yehuda midiskarto toshma. It says bohem. 1 second. Yochel bekulon. It says by shrotzim. Okay, what's the halacha? Right? 1 second. It says bohem yochel bekulon tam mehem. Rashi says over there. It says asheyipo mehem el tocho. What's the halacha? If you have a vessel, an earthenware vessel, and the sheretz is lowered into the walls, it doesn't touch the vessel, but it's within the parameters of the vessel. It's suspended in the vessel, and it's an earthenware vessel. It becomes tummy. It doesn't have to touch. But it also says asheyiga. So is it bohem? Is it in the vessel but not touching, or it has to touch? Right? That's the question. It says gabi shrotzim says asheyipo mehem el tocho umakmachsiv asheyiga behem b'mosam. So how do we reconcile the psukim? Right? Bohem yochel bekulon tamlo mehem im yochel miktzos tamlo bohem. Hoketzad ad sheyiga b'miktzos and kol shuv. Now, It says, bohem, and it says meh. What's bohem means? Bohem indicates, we have 8 types of shrotzim. A rodent is not just any, there's 8 shemot shrotzim. Torah says, if any of the shrotzim, when they're dead, fall into a vessel, it contaminates. What's bohem mean? That means the full rodent is there. Mehem means even of them. So that's the question. Is it of them or them? We have a contradiction to psukim. What does bohem indicate? Bohem means yochel bekulam. That means the full sheretz has to be intact. That's what it contaminates. Yoch tamud loma mehem. But it says no. Is it mehem or is it bohem? Even of them. Somewhere says e mehem yochel mikzoson. He says mehem indicates even if it's mikzoson, even it's part of it. Tamud loma mehem. Bohem. It has to be the full amount. What does that mean? We'll see in a moment. There's a certain type of rodent, when it begins developing, it's as small as a lentil. It's no larger. Then as it grows, it gets bigger. So that means the amount of them is the equivalent of the total when it starts developing. Yeah? Today it could be a piece. A sheretz in tamich chadash, if you have a piece of a rodent which is no larger than lentil of contamination, where did it come up with a lentil? Because at a certain stage of development, the sheretz is no longer larger than a lentil. So the sheretz is mayhem. The full sheretz is no bigger than that. So eventually, even if though it's mayhem, it's from them. If the from them is the equivalent of the total, which originally was, it's metame. Yeah? Why? Why did they come up with that dasha, the size of a lentil? The chomet is a certain type of, I don't know what does he say over there? What's a chomet? It's the 6 lines down. 5 lines down. 6 lines. Chomet, the end of the 4th line.
Sounds like it's life force, the legitimate definition of creature, maybe that depending on life.
No. I wonder what chomet is. What is the chomet? It's one of the.
A creature.
Because they don't know what it is. Say creature. Creature. Okay, but.
Colons are vital. You cannot be born alive if it's less than the size of a pencil.
Whatever it is, okay.
This is why they're looking to.
What is it? Shircha chom b'chadash, chomet chilos brios b'chadash, shma mino, shiura gemiri. No, so what's the said? It's a shear. It's not what it's called. It's shear. So if that's the case, if you have an ant and the leg is missing, no. It's not bria. It's not. We don't determine it by bria. Snail. Okay, whatever. Omer Rav Shmayo. So he says so. Rav Shmayo says no. Kibin and shiura bidlo havi kadasha. Lo metame v'lo nof v'lo neshama. He says when do we say it's metame bedasha? That if it's so small, that means it can't live. Avol nof v'lo neshama lo tiboyloch. Yeah. Bria b'midi kol brios b'chadasha. Avol gabi nemola post b'chadasha havi bo neshama. He's saying it's not comparable. We're saying what we're learning here. If you have a rodent the size of a lentil, even if there's no life in it, it's a piece of a rodent. What's the halacha? It contaminates. Right. The insect, we're talking about the insect is fully alive. We're not talking about just a piece of insect matter. It's right. The insect. Right. So maybe it does contaminate. It does. It's considered. The halacha is you'll be subject to malchus. It's not a question. It's not comparable to this. See what it says. I mean, if you have a full ant, right? You get malchus. You didn't need the full thing. It's not the size of an adasha. So you see that bria has no relevance to adasha. Lobina shura vakati tiboiloch. Therefore, the question is still a question. There's no proof from there. Further, iboilu. It says in the Mishnah Shedva Gogolis that if the nozer comes in contact with shedra v'hagilgolus, the spinal column, and the skull. So the nozer has to be megalech. Iboilu. Shedra vilgugolus tanan. Is it both? It has to come in contact with the skull and the spinal column. O dilma o shedra o gugolus. Even coming in contact with the skull itself or the spinal column itself, that's enough for him to be megalech. Omar Rov Toshma. It's a shedra shegired rov ilin shebo. Let's see, you have the ribs are attached to the spine, to the spinal column, right? Let's say the majority of the ribs were broken off. Let's see, spinal with the ribs, okay, so that's considered intact. That's part of the shedra. Let's say you break off all the ribs, and all you have is the back, is the spinal column, right? Shedra shegired rov ilin shebo, the majority of the ribs, Torah, doesn't contaminate. Yeah? Doesn't contaminate as a shedra. If the majority of the ribs are broken off the spinal column. Torah, you come in contact with, you're not contaminated. Ubekever, what about if it's buried? It's in the ground. Afilu mushuberes umfurekes tmeo b'mnei hakever. Because now it's called a grave. It's the grave. If it's a grave contaminates, that's called a grave. It's buried in the grave. See the bays here? Yeah. Why? It says shakev mitzarf. It's very good. The halach is, if it's the ribs are on the spinal column, it contaminates. If it's broken off, so it's two separate things. You have the ribs and you have the spinal column. What about if you put it in the grave? The grave reattaches them. You see the grave that reattaches. You see it as reattached to the spinal column. They kever. He says, mitzarfon. Taima mishum degirate. What's the reason why it doesn't contaminate? Because he broke off the ribs. Holo girate. But the inference is, but if he didn't break off the ribs, it would tame. So you see when the Mishnah says the skull and the ribs, shmamino, o shedra, o gugolos ktani. Right? Either one. The skull or the spinal column independent. Right? Holoktani. Right? Kamash Malon, the Chigire. Somewhere says no. Holoktani. The Baranjbuk says you have cetosis. Kamash Malon, the Chigire Torah. Meaning, if you break it off, it's definitely Torah. Idach tiboilach. But if it's intact, it's not so simple. Let's see. He brings tosis. Time of the gira halogire because the diary below gugolis. Fil tmeo shmaminad lav right. Shani miktoni halogire tmeo kamashal the chigire. You see tosis. Torah v'idach tiboil appears. Miktoni halogire tmeo. It doesn't say if you didn't break off the bones. It doesn't say. Below gugolis. Dilmak sheishimo gugolis iri. I thought we're speaking about phenomenal. I'll tell you we're speaking about the spine. You need both skull and a spinal column to contaminate. What happens if you break off the ribs off the spinal column? No, then it's Torah. Even if you have the skull. Here, we're not talking about the spinal column by itself. We're speaking about the spinal column with the ribs attached and the skull. If they're together, it contaminates the nose. That was never a question. What happens now? You go and you have the skull and spine, and you break the ribs off the spinal column. Now, although you have both, it won't contaminate. Maybe that's what it says. See, originally we understood it says if you have a spinal column with ribs attached, your tummy. No, it says your tummy. So you break off the ribs, you're not. So you see the spinal column by itself contaminates. So the more answers, the way Tosfos explains, no, that's not what it says. We're speaking about initially, we're talking about you started off with a skull and the ribs and the spinal column. And the spinal column had the ribs attached to it. But if now you go and break off the ribs off the spinal column, even with the skull, it won't contaminate. Because you have to have the full spinal column intact together with the skull. You following? And, well, the spinal column without the ribs attached, that means the spinal column is not a full spinal column. Because the natural form of the spinal column with the ribs attached to them. Because it attaches on the back. Okay? You're going to have to take a course in anatomy. You got it here. Judah, you go back, you'll qualify as a medic. When they draft you, better be careful. That's the question that you'll ask if you learn Nazir. Okay. Okay. Toshma. So we haven't brought a proof. Toshma. Reb Yehuda Omer Shisha Dvar Reb Akiva Matami. The 6 things that Reb Akiva says cause contamination. Chacham disagree. V'chozabo Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva retracted. Although he said the 6 things you come in contact, you're contaminated, he retracted and he concurred with the Chacham doesn't contaminate. U'maisa shivia kupam le'av atzomos, the Beis HaKnesses shel tarsi. You hear this? They brought a box filled with bones to Beis HaKnesses where you had the tarsi, the copper workers. You know, in those days, you know, each shul was by certain guilds. Okay? You had the, what's his name? You had, you know, the goldsmiths, the silversmiths, and you had the coppersmiths. V'nichua ba'avir. Yeah? And it says they suspended it. V'nichnas tudas harofe. This person, his name was Tudas, the doctor. V'chol harofe mimo. You know, he came in with all his students. Him with all his other doctors. V'amru ein kan shedra mimei sechot. And they analyzed the bones, and they said the bones in this box are not from the same spinal column. They're fragments, and each fragment is from a different spinal. They don't match. So if they don't match up, it doesn't contaminate, right? Wait a second. So taima the leka shedra the michado. It seems to why doesn't it contaminate? Because you don't have all the bones are not from the same spinal column. But what's the inference is? What's the inference? Ha'ika o shedra gugolis the michada. But if you have one skull, that all the bones are from the same skull, and all the bones are from the same spinal column, nazir megaleh cholov. The nazir would have to, he'd be contaminated to disrupt this counting. Shmami, so what do we have? We have proof from this brayso that what? O shedra, o gugolis tenan. Right? That one or the other is sufficient to create contamination. They said, what's the reason why it doesn't contaminate? Because the bones that comprise the spinal column are not the bones from the same spinal column. But it seems if they would be, it would contaminate. But if you tell me you need the skull and the spinal column, it's still not enough. Even if it's from the same spinal column, it won't contaminate. So Mor says, no proof. Lo mi boy kama. Lo mi boy shedro v'golas timi mesechod leko. Yeah? He says, there's no question. If the shedra and the gogoles are not from the same mess, there's nothing. Elafilo o shedro mes mi mesechod gogoles mesechod leko. That's what they said. They said, firstly, the skull and the spinal column are not from the same person. Right? Lo mi boy kama. Lomi boy shedra v'golas mesechod leko. Firstly, it doesn't contaminate because the shedra and the gogolas are not from the same corpse. Yeah, that's firstly. And then they said, and even if it would be, one or the other is not enough because there was only a spinal column. They said, firstly, there's nothing to talk about here. Why is there nothing to talk about? Because the bones are not from the same spinal column. No, they're not from the same spinal column. And even if they would be, because there's no skull there, it doesn't contaminate either. But this is an easy one. You got it?
Okay.
It's easy because it's not even one spinal column.
Right.
It's from different spinal columns.
Good.
So therefore there's no proof. There's no proof from this brisa that we're quoting. Toshma. Miminyona. We said there's 6, right? We said Reb Kiva contaminates 6 situations. The Gemara is going to enumerate what they are. Umahin shisha dvarim Reb Kiva mitamei. The Chacham mitar. We say there's 6 things. Reb Kiva says 6 things. If the nazir comes in contact with this, you tamei. And the Chacham disagree. What are they? Umahin. Al evim in amis. Sheba b'shnei mesim. You hear this? You have a limb. With a limb, see, we speak about, let's say you have a forearm. In your hand, you have 2 bones in the arm. Let's say you have 2 bones, one bone from one mess and a bone from another mess. So it comprises, both bones which comprise the arm, but it's not from one corpse. It's from, right? Well, that's a kshayla. Al ever mes sheba mishnei mesin. So Rekiva says, since you have all the bones of the arm, it contaminates. Chum said we disagree. Since it's not the bone of the same person, right? It has to be, okay? Al evim and achai sheba mishnei mesim. Same thing. You have Evim and Achai that comes from 2. Same thing. It was removed when the person was alive, but it's not the full Aver, the full limb from one person. It's 2 people. Al Chatzi Kav Atzomos Shabab Shnei Mesim. You have, no, we said also, you said if you have Chatzi Kav Atzomos regarding the Nazir, you walk into the tent, that's only if it comes from the same mess. Right. Reb Kiva says even 2 Mesim.
So it's a half a cup from 2, so it's a quarter.
So Reb Meir says, Reb Kiva says it contaminates.
Yeah.
Chum disagree. Aravias dama bo mishnayim. You have a revius dam from that the blood oozed out of the corpse after he died, and let's say a revius is 4 ounces. 2 ounces from one mess, you combine, Rav Kiva says it contaminates. And if Nazir comes in contact with that, he has to what? He has to, right. Al etzem kisora shenechlak lishnayim. What if you had a bone fragment? We said a bone fragment, which is a sora, contaminates and it disrupts the counting. What about you broke it in half and then you reattached it? Do we say once you break it in half, you can't reconstruct it anymore? Okay? Then he says, and you have, and the skull, and the spinal column, and the skull. So those are the 6. So now Gemara is going to come out with the number. If you count them up, if you say that you need both the shedra and the gugoles, the skull and that, so then you have 6. But if we say the skull and the spine, each one independently contaminates, we have 7. So why does it say you only have 6? Yeah. So you see clearly from the number that the number is what? Did you have to have the skull and the spinal column? You following, Dorman? We had a question. When it says in the Mishnah, if a Nazir comes in contact, walks into a tent where you have a skull and a spinal column, he's contaminated and he has to start over. Is the skull by itself is enough, and the or no, you need both? So it says Rav Kiva has 6 cases that he contaminates, and the Chum argue. One of the 6 cases is the skull and the spinal column, and he enumerates all of them. If you count them up, if you count the skull and the spinal column as 1, you have 6. If you count them as 2, then you have 7. So you're able to bring a proof from the number that he's calling it 6, that what contaminates when you have the skull and the spine, that's only that together. If it's one independent of the other, it does not contaminate. Even according to Rabbi Akiva. Because otherwise the number should be 7, not 6. So Mar says, Iso that Oshedro Gugola is Havi Shiva. Hani Shiva Avian. And that Gemara says, Kikatoni Kol Hech de Pligi Alei Rabbi. Etzem Kesora the Yochadhu, the Polygamy. He says, all the cases that we have here, it's the Chachomim argue with Rabbi Akiva. The case of the Etzem Kesora, we said if you have the bone fragment size of barley and split it in half, there's no argument there. Right. There's no argument between Rabbi Akiva and the Chachomim over there. Even Rabbi Akiva agrees. The Tani Etzem Kesora Shenech Lishnaim Rabbi Akiva Metame. Rabbi Yochanan Nuri Metame. We're listing 6 that the Chacham argue with Rabbi Meir, with Rabbi Akiva. So that you only have 6. The case where you take the bone fragment, split in half, it's not the Chacham argue with Rabbi Akiva, it's Rabbi Yochanan Nuri. So you have 6. So even if you count the skull and the shedra as 2 independent, each one independent of the other, the number is 6. Ibo Seimo. We're speaking about all the things that have to do with a corpse. No. We're not talking about. So you have 6 cases of the corpse. We're talking about all the cases where Nazir, that even if he doesn't come in contact, he just walks under the same roof with it, he's contaminated. What's etzem kesora? A bone fragment only if you touch it or you carry it. But if you, let's say he bends over it, he doesn't become contaminated. So that you have 6 cases. You have 6 cases which become contaminated through oil. We're speaking about the 6 cases which he retracted. It says Rav Kiva said there were 6, and how many did he retract? That he didn't. So it comes that after everything's said and done, the 6 cases which he retracted from. Because the blood, the revius dam, that comes from 2 mesim, he'd retract from that. When you say he retracted, revius dam that comes from 2 mesim, that should not be, it should not be said he retracted on that one. Because he has a proof that it's based on a pasuk. Messiah, he has a pasuk supporting his position that even though the full revius doesn't come from one corpse, it's the equivalent of that. Why? Because it says, I'll call nafshos mes. Even though it comes from nafshos plural, from 2, it's metame. It says lo yovo. Reb Shimon omer ad yomov hoy metame. Im shemesh chazabo. Any of there. Yeah, Reb Shimon said regarding We say Reb Shimon argues, where he says, as long as he was alive, that was his position. But who knows? Maybe after he died, he retracted. Maybe he retracted in the grave. You hear what Reb Shimon said about Reb Kiva? It's a disrespect. Did he speak about Reb Kiva that way? It's true. When he was alive, he held that if you have Revi'as Dam from two corpses, it was Metame. But you never know. Maybe in the grave he retracted. Yeah, it's bizarre. You know what he did? He realized that he fasted all his life to do tshuva to that comment. It says, he fasted all his life that his teeth turned black from these lengthy fasts throughout his life. Because he regretted that he made such a comment which was so disrespectful about Rabbi Akiva. I mean, he was so vehemently opposed to that position, that's what caused him to make that comment. But you never, maybe in the grave he retracted. So we have no proof. Okay.